Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here with us today. You know, it's funny. Did you know that arguably the most peaceful poem in human history is actually all about survival in a brutal, unforgiving desert? Well, get ready, because today we are preparing to decode the deeply historical roots of Psalm 23. Whether you know this poem by heart or you've just heard it in passing, there is an entire ancient world hidden right beneath its words, and we're going to uncover it together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It's an absolutely iconic opening line, right? But as we get started here, I want you to actively visualize this with me. Don't just read the text on a page. Try to picture the realistic, cinematic imagery of a shepherd and their flock out in the rugged, dusty, ancient wilderness. On the ancient shepherd reality, let's actually step into what an ancient shepherd did in that harsh Middle Eastern environment. Okay, let's dive into this. The daily reality of a shepherd was incredibly demanding. This wasn't a relaxed afternoon hanging out with fluffy animals. By day, their primary duty was pure survival, finding scarce water and leading flocks to food across really difficult terrain. They had to constantly defend the sheep against wild animals, literally lions and bears, not to mention human thieves. And then at night, they were responsible for sheltering the flocks in caves or hillside folds, basically acting as a physical living barrier against danger. Now, there's this brilliant insight from Jewish commentary that completely shifts how we view this relationship. The shepherd doesn't actually bring the feed to the sheep. Rather, they bring the sheep to the pasture to graze. Shepherding in this context is about guiding and providing the opportunity for sustenance, not simply hand-feeding. It's a partnership, and it's built entirely on trust and guidance. Section 2. Lush pastures, dark valleys. This dynamic is perfectly captured as the poem moves into a landscape of stark extremes. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, he leadeth me beside the still waters. Just imagine the smell of those green pastures and still waters for a second. In the arid Middle East, we are not talking about an endless grassy plain in every direction. It resembles a real-life oasis, much like the stunning Ein Gedi in the Judean desert, which, fun fact, is where David actually hid. It represents this rare, miraculous pocket of absolute tranquility and life. But here's the catch. That oasis is surrounded by immense danger. The poem continues, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Contrast that lush oasis you just pictured with the stark, towering desert mountains of the Jordan Valley. With its deep, dark, imposing ravines, this is the literal, geographical valley of the shadow of death. Now, what's really interesting about this translation is a subtle yet profound detail. In standard English, the verse ends with, "For thou art with me." But the original Hebrew word used here is imadi, and this root implies something much more active than just being in the general vicinity. It implies the creator is actively standing up or standing with the author right there in that terrifying valley. Section 3, the comfort of the rod. This active, standing presence brings us to one of the most easily misunderstood lines in the entire poem. We read, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Let's unpack the linguistic contrast here, because it's fascinating. The shevet, or rod, implies justice, rebuke, or a harsh tool used for defense against predators. On the other hand, the mishonet, or staff, well, that's a support to lean on, much like a walking cane. Both of these are absolutely essential tools in the shepherd's hands. So why on earth is a harsh rod a comfort? Think about it. It's because the shepherd's tools prove that the shepherd is present, engaged, and fiercely protective. Even when facing the brutal realities of that dark valley, knowing the shepherd is right there to fight for the flock with the rod of defense while also offering the staff of support, that is a source of deep, unmatched comfort. Section 4. The Royal Shepherd King. We are now transitioning from the humble pasture to the majestic, ancient royal dimension of the shepherd title. And this brilliantly illustrates where the ancient context completely blows the doors off our modern understanding. Listen to this. "Thou prepares a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil." Think about the visual here. The imagery suddenly snaps from a sheep grazing in a dangerous field to a human sitting at a royal, abundant banquet, utterly safe while their enemies watch powerless. It's a total paradigm shift. Look at the Hebrew word for anoint used in this verse. Dishanta. It's a root meaning to anoint with oil, sure, but it also means to make fertile or full of enjoyment and supreme satisfaction. This is exactly how biblical kings were crowned. So, in an instant, the poem has elevated from a beautiful pastoral song into a majestic royal claim. You see, for over 2,000 years before this text was even written, Near Eastern kings claimed the title of shepherd to prove their divine right to rule. From the Sumerian king Gudea in 2144 BC to the Babylonian Hammurabi, who you might know for his famous legal code, but who also heavily leaned into the shepherd branding, to the Egyptian Amenhotep III in 1411 BC. In the ancient world, calling someone a shepherd was literally the equivalent of declaring them a sovereign king. In fact, the shepherd's crook was literally an insignia of ancient kings, prominently featured in ancient Egyptian art. It symbolized the ruler's immense power, their eminence, and especially their absolute obligation to maintain order, justice, and protection over their subjects. Let's move to see how this builds across ancient texts. Notice how beautifully this metaphor intertwines. We see human leaders like David and Cyrus acting as shepherds. We see the Lord, or Jehovah, as the divine shepherd, and we see the people represented as the flock. To the ancient mind, there was absolutely no disconnect between the rugged shepherd in the field and the sovereign king on a throne. Section 5, Dwelling in the House. Let's bring this journey to its resolution, bridging that ancient world to today. The poem concludes with this powerful, enduring plea. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Notice the active language here. The psalmist is asking to literally be pursued or chased by goodness and mercy for all their days. Now, there is a fascinating piece of Jewish commentary on the word translated as dwell, which is shavti. While it usually translates to return, it is possibly rooted in the word shavu, which actually means captive. Think about the weight of that for a second. Dwelling in the house of the Lord might actually mean being a willing, joyful captive to the endless goodness and kindness found in God's house forever. All of this makes Psalm 23 a truly universal metaphor for comfort, guidance, and profound personal peace. Traditions everywhere, from Latter-day Saints to Judaism, utilize the active visualization of this cinematic poem, picturing that lush oasis, the terrifying valley, the royal banquet, and the fierce protector, to find deep peace in their own lives today. So the crucial point is this: if the ancient world viewed the Creator not just as a gentle guide, but as a fiercely protective shepherd king actively fighting for them in the darkest valleys, how does that change the way you face your own dark valleys today? Keep seeking, keep visualizing, and thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer.